In the 1980s, the world of stunt shows was louder, riskier, and far less restrained than today. Across racetracks and airfields, crowds gathered to watch men flirt with death, driving through walls of fire, leaping across buses, or hurling cars skywards in record-breaking attempts. Safety was secondary to spectacle. The bigger the danger, the louder the applause. Among these daredevils was Alain Vincx, a Belgian stuntman known for his fearless car-jumping bus stunts. On a bright May afternoon at Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands, Alain prepared for his most ambitious stunt yet, one that promised to outdo everything he had done before. The crowd waited, engines roared and cameras rolled. Moments later, the spectacle that began as entertainment would become something else entirely. But what exactly happened that day? Let's talk about it. This is the infamous death of Alain Vincx. The 1970s and 80s were the golden age of danger. From Evel Knievel's rocket-powered motorcycles in the US to European touring stunt teams, the culture of live spectacle resolved around one simple question: how far can a man go before physics or fate stop him? These weren't special effects or rehearsed illusions, they were raw, mechanical gambles. Crowds packed into racetracks, airfields, and fairgrounds to witness men transform ordinary machines into instruments of chaos. Cars were launched off ramps, set ablaze, or sent flying over trucks and buses in attempts to smash world records. Sometimes, the stunts went perfectly. Other times, the crashes were the show. In Europe, this adrenaline-fueled subculture flourished. Travelling stunt tropes like Hell Drivers, the Stunt Masters, and Auto Daredevils internationals performed across Belgium, France, and the Netherlands, each promising audience a new kind of thrill. The shows mixed with humour, engineering, and danger, half circus, half demolition derby. By the 1980s, Alain Vincx had emerged as one of the region's most audacious performers. He wasn't a Hollywood stuntman or a race driver. He was a showman, one who had turned risk into an art form. His signature act wasn't to soar over obstacles, but to drive straight through them. Rows of gutted buses would be lined up end to end, stripped of their interiors, forming a tunnel barely wide enough for a speeding car. Alain would then aim dead centre, floor the accelerator, and blast through the metal shells at over 100 km per hour. This particular stunt, driving through a line of buses, had recently captured the public's imagination thanks to South African stuntman Vink Conradie, who in June 1982 became the first man to crash a car through 3 buses in succession. Conradie's early attempts had failed spectacularly, his car slamming short of the third vehicle, but when he finally succeeded, it made headlines across the stunt world. For performers like Alain, it set a new standard. 3 buses was now the number to beat, and for a man chasing redemption, this was the kind of challenge too tempting to ignore. So why was he chasing redemption? Behind Alain's fearless image was a past as turbulent as his stunts. Not much is known about his early life, but reports from Belgian newspapers in the 1970s paint a picture of a young man with talent and a trouble in equal measure. He was said to have run with a gang of reckless boy racers in Brussels known locally as the Sudists, a group infamous for illegal street races and run-ins with the police. Alain was brilliant behind the wheel, but often used his skill not for glory but for grift. Before he found his way into the stunt circuit, he had been arrested for insurance fraud, allegedly staging car accidents for payouts. It was a life on the edge, but by the dawn of the 1980s something shifted. Maybe it was his age, or maybe it was the exhaustion of always being one heist away from prison. Alain began channeling his obsession with risk into something larger, something public. He reinvented himself as a professional stunt driver. A man who could take the chaos of the streets and turn it into a spectacle for people to cheer for. To many, it looked like redemption. To others, it was just another version of danger. But to Alain Vincx, it was purpose. It all proved that he could still live life on the edge, only this time on his own terms. This brings us to May 25, 1987, at the Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands, where they were hosting a stunt event known as World Record Day, and it had drawn crowds of thrill seekers from across Europe. Fans lined the stands, cameras clicked, and people were excited. Alain Vincx was the star of the show. In the months prior, He had established his reputation with his hallmark stunt, driving a car straight through 3 gutted buses, lined up end to end. The feat was a crowd favourite, cementing his place among Europe's most daring drivers. He had also previously attempted the 4-bus jump, but that effort ended in failure, leaving him injured yet undeterred. On this bright May afternoon, Alain prepared for the ambitious challenge. Miscalculations by even fractions of a second could mean disaster. The crowd felt the tension in the air as Alain climbed into his driver's seat, fire zoot zipped, helmet secured, his eyes scanning the 4 buses ahead. The car set off, and as the vehicle emerged from the final bus in a fiery explosion severely damaged, it was clear something had gone horribly wrong. The first person to now reach the rolling car saw Alain and told the others to stop to save them from looking at him. He waved them back, and it was clear that there was no use for a medic. Alain had been decapitated and had been killed. Whilst this was happening, the crowd were unsure if Alain was alive until what happened next. One of the crew members was sent into the lined up buses. He then emerged from the bus with a bloody helmet, which, you know what was inside of it. This stunned the crowd to silence. In the days following the crash, questions arose of what had gone wrong. Footage from the event showed that Alain's car entered the first bus cleanly, maintaining a straight line through the initial wreckage, but somewhere between the first and second bus, the trajectory changed. Spectators and crew later noted that the second bus appeared slightly lower than the first, perhaps due to uneven cutting or a misjudged angle in the setup. Combined with the higher speed at which Alain entered the stunt, this may have caused the car to strike the roof of the second bus head on. This impact tore away the top of the vehicle, leaving little chance for survival. While it remains unclear whether Alain was killed instantly in the first or second bus, investigators and eyewitnesses largely agreed that the second impact proved fatal. The sheer force of the collision destroyed the car structure and caused awful injuries. He would have been killed instantly. He was just 41 years old. There was no formal inquest or detailed public report, but those present described the aftermath as immediate and devastating. Yet, controversy didn't end with his burial. More than 3 decades later, in 2020, his name resurfaced in a very different context. Belgian authorities, re-examining the case of the Brabant Killers, a violent gang that terrorised Belgium between 1982 and 1985, ordered the exhumation of Alain's body. The group had carried out a series of armed robberies and supermarket massacres that left 28 people dead, and the killers were never caught. Investigators suspected that Alain Vincx might have been more than just a stuntman. His criminal past and links to groups of reckless young street racers in Brussels painted a complicated picture. This led detectives to theorise that his skill behind the wheel made him the perfect getaway driver for the group. Police exhumed his remains to collect DNA and compare it with traces recovered from the Brabant case, but in the end, forensic tests found no connection between Alain and the Brabant killers. The theory collapsed, and his name was formally cleared. But the fact that he was even considered shows just how blurred his legacy had become. What an insane story. As always, this is not an AI channel, I do everything myself, so if you appreciate my work, subscribe, and if you want to go that extra step to support the channel, maybe consider becoming a member. Let me know what you think about this case in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.